think we're live. Give everything a couple minutes to catch up here. Good morning. Welcome to Abundant Life Homestead. We're 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. I come to you live during my morning quiet time. During this time, we can talk and chat about anything you like, but we do have the intention of having a Bible study. Our morning Bible study follows loosely along with the Revised Common Lectionary, which you can find at vanderbilt.edu. The lectionary is used by millions of Christians around the world, several denominations, lots of pastors, many students use this same guide, this same 3-year trip through the Bible. And so we know that in any given week we are studying the same scriptures that millions around the world are studying at the same time. Maybe not always on the same day, but at least in the same week. And we do this with intention of getting God's Word into our heart first thing in the morning, getting a foundation in His Word before the troubles and stresses and turmoils of the day have their chance to make a foundation. We get God's Word in our heart, and then we've got we're much better equipped to handle those stresses and those turmoils. Even if we don't fully, thoroughly understand the passage that we read in the morning, even if we don't have the deepest, most scholarly discussion and knowledge of the passage that we read, we've got that foundation laid. We've got something to stand on throughout the day. And the as far as the having a chat and discussion goes, you're always open to join us here as far as anything that you see in the scripture, that what jumps out at you is His Word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. We keep in mind that my feet and my path are different from your feet and your path. And when I read the Word, something different may seem highly important to me than what seems highly important to you. So feel free to bring up and discuss what really stands out in the Word to you. And likewise, if you read in a different translation and something different, you see it in a different light because you read in a different translation, feel free to bring it up. This is a more of a round table discussion than a study or a class. Hope everyone is well this morning. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Today is July the 14th of 2025. We had a pretty decent weekend, nothing too terribly exciting. Seemed like a long weekend, which was fine. Haven't had a long weekend in a while. And we did finally get some rain yesterday. I know I filmed a bit of a storm, I think back in the end of May. That was the last time we got more than an inch of rain at a time. Ever since then, we've just had a few passing showers. It would maybe drop 1/10 of an inch at a time. Yesterday, we finally got over an inch again in one day. Came in 3 waves, which was okay, and nothing was, didn't have any severe storms out of it or anything, but as always, the rain did bring new life, new pollen. Had a lot of insects out like crazy last night, and this morning eyes are burning, having a hard time focus as the rain has renewed things, and a lot of these plants have released their pollens into the air. But hope everyone is well. Hope you all had a great weekend. And we will probably go ahead and get started in the Word. So today being Monday, we normally read a gospel passage on Monday. And today's gospel passage is Luke chapter 10, verses 38 through 42. Looks like it's going to be a short one. I started opening at 8:10 this morning. I mentioned last week I was going to bring it back, bring it to start at 8:10 now, because we were running over pretty much every day, and it looks like the first day that I'm starting early, we may have a short passage to read. Oh, my eyes. Where are we at? Luke chapter 10. Okay. It's Martha and Mary. Starting with verse 38, and I read out of the Amplified for this. Now that while they were on their way, Jesus entered a village called Bethany, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary, who seated herself at the Lord's feet and was continually listening to his teaching. But Martha was very busy and distracted with all of her serving responsibilities, and she approached him and said, "Lord, is it of no concern to you that my sister has left me to do the serving alone? Tell her to help me and to do her part." But the Lord replied to her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and bothered and anxious about so many things, but only one thing is necessary. For Mary has chosen the good part, that which is to her advantage, and which will not be taken away from her." Okay. So yeah, it is a very short reading this morning. So we left off last week. Last week we left off right before this at Luke 10:37, and we had read the parable of the Good Samaritan. And the parable came about from the lawyer asking Christ, what must I do to inherit eternal life? And it came about as the lawyer had mentioned, and as Jesus mentioned in other places, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And then he went in and talking about, who is your neighbor, and the parable of the Good Samaritan. And I think, this example with Mary and Martha is kind of a continuation in that lesson. Even though this wasn't necessarily a parable, this was an action that happened. This is a continuation of that, the two things, the most important things: loving the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And so they go into Bethany. Bethany is just a couple miles outside of Jerusalem. We hear about Bethany more than a couple of times in the Bible. We meet Mary and Martha a few times in the Bible. Mary and Martha are the sisters of Lazarus, the one who Jesus raised from the dead at one point. And I've read, there's some scholars say that Jesus had first met Mary, Martha, and Lazarus when he was a young boy. And I don't know how deep that goes, how much of that is true, if they were childhood friends and this and that. But this mention in Luke 8 seems to be the first time that they had an encounter while he was a teacher, a rabbi, once his ministry had begun. So we end up here in Bethany, in Martha's house. Martha welcomes him into her home. And she has the sister Mary, who seated herself at the Lord's feet and was continually listening to his teaching. Now this probably being the first encounter of Christ as the teacher, in his ministry as a rabbi, as a teacher. This is the first time we see Mary at Jesus's feet, but we at least two other encounters I can think of. The same Mary ends up at Jesus's feet The one time, the next time we see is when Lazarus, their brother, had passed. And Mary comes up and falls at Jesus' feet and says, if you had only been here, our brother would not have died. And then about a week before he was crucified, we also see the same Mary washing Jesus' feet with the expensive oils. And this is when the disciples, mostly Judas, questioned, her wasting that money on Christ and this and that. And so we encounter these two often. But Mary, this is her beginning of being at Jesus' feet, and this is a position of saying, "Hey, I'm willing to learn." It would be very common to sit at the feet of a teacher. This is also a position that says, "Hey, I submit to you." A position of showing her faith in him, showing her willingness to learn, her, again, more than anything, I guess, really showing her submission to him, sitting at the Lord's feet, and continually listening to his teaching. So not just sitting at his feet, but actually paying attention to him, listening to him, not just taking the position and doing the ceremonial thing to do, but actually listening, absorbing, getting involved in this teaching. But Martha was very busy and distracted with all of her serving responsibilities, and she approached him. Well, we'll start there. But Martha was very busy and distracted with all of her serving responsibilities. This is something I think we can see quite often with not only then, but through now, where it's many times we get caught up in in the action or the look or the tradition of what is supposed to happen, be it when somebody comes over to the house, or when we go to church on Sundays, or when we do this or we do that. So many of us get caught up in making sure everything is perfect. We have to do all the things, we have to make sure the kids are dressed just right, and the house is picked up just right, and all of the meal is just perfect, and if anything doesn't go exactly like we had it all planned out for what was going to happen, we start to get frustrated and irritable. And I don't want to be cliche about it, but a lot of times you see this with mothers on Sunday morning when trying to get the kids ready, and and then a kid gets their clothes dirty or put on the wrong socks that weren't not what they were told to do, and trying to get all the stuff ready, do all the things, and we so focused on the look of things and how things are supposed to be, that we lose our focus on the meaning of what we're doing. Be it loving our neighbor, be it serving our neighbor, or be it going to attend a worship service, or be it inviting guests, whatever it is, we get so focused on all the things that need done that we lose the focus on what we're doing. And it kind of seems that Martha, and maybe she doesn't, if this is really the first encounter, maybe Martha hasn't gained that focus yet. So maybe she hasn't lost that focus yet. But here, she's learning the things about this. But we also see, as we said, there was the love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. One thing we see in Martha is that loving your neighbor. It's not that she's doing something terribly bad. She's doing good in what she's doing. She's trying to serve Jesus and whatever people are with him. It doesn't even necessarily, it says as they, and his disciples were with him, but we don't know if there were others with him. So we don't know just how many people were there, but she's trying to serve these people. She's loving her neighbor. And he's saying, it's not bad what you're doing, but you've lost your focus. Lost your focus on God, or maybe not had it in the beginning. You can love your neighbor as yourself. You can do good. You can do intently serve God and do all these good things for God. But if that's your only focus, then you forgot the first part, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. So she's exhibiting the love your neighbor. She's exhibiting the exhibiting works. But then we see Mary has the love the Lord your God and the faith over works. But she's very busy. She's distracted with serving. She's doing all the good things for God at the moment. And she says, Lord, is it of no concern to you that my sister has left me to do the serving alone? This kind of reminds me of a good morning, Redskin Garage. Good morning. It's kind of reminds me of a question that we've all probably heard in our lives, and some of us have probably asked in our lives. I do so much good for the church. Why is that person blessed? Or I'm doing all these great things in the church. Why does that person not have more responsibility? Why is more of it on me? Is it of no concern to you, God, that I am weighed down with all these things that I feel like I'm supposed to be doing and they're not? Why aren't you putting some of this on them? Why don't you step in and make that person serve you? And I hope that none of us put ourselves in the position of asking those questions. But I can think, there's probably been times, in my life where I've asked that question but there's also been times in my life where I've stood back and like, man, I'm the one that's not doing all the work, and start wondering, well, maybe I should be doing all the work, or should be doing more of the work. I should turn my focus back to works. And it's really kind of what we see with both Mary and Martha. There's that kind of internal struggle between that faith and works and focus, and where should our focus be? Do we put more importance on doing the things, or do we put more importance on the first one of loving the Lord your God? Coffee House, she says, it's prioritizing the physical and material needs and the wants of the world over your spiritual importance and needs. Yeah, and we let so much of the world, I think, infiltrate our works even. Because, I know I have known several in my life where at the moment something goes wrong, whether it's with the church, whether it's in your spiritual life, if someone falls into sin or something happens at the church, I have audibly heard more than once in my life, the first thing that comes out of someone's mouth is, what are people going to think about this? What's everyone going to think when they find this out? We put so much of the world ahead. As you said, prioritizing those wants of the world over our own spiritual importance. And, we don't necessarily know if Martha had gone that far, this great guy, Jesus, who's been traveling all over the country talking and this and that. If everything's not perfect, what's he going to think about me? What's he going to think about my house? What's he going to tell others? What's the rest of the world going to think about me if my service is not perfect here? And we don't know if she made a meal here, but it's kind of implied and probably assumed. What if the food's not perfect? What if it's not served in the right order? What if, all these what ifs, what if, and what if I get so concerned with the what if that we forgot what if my soul's not in the right place? What if my heart's not in the right place? Coffee house. There is a lot of need in people for life to be fair and equal among us in what we do and have. There's definitely a desire for that, but I kind of learned a long time ago and tell my children quite often, life's not fair. You're not going to get equal portions. It's not going to happen. And sometimes there is this fight, as you just said. There's probably some sibling rivalry going on there. Yeah, we assume Martha is the older sister, and she's kind of taking the stance that the older sister would. How come the younger sister's not doing as much work as I am? How come she's getting to have more fun and I'm taking on more responsibility? And yeah, we see that with three boys. That kind of rivalry happens all the time, and the answer that they get often from Dad is that life's not fair. And when it comes to works, when it comes to actions within the home, it's like, well, take out the garbage. Well, I did it last time. I don't care. You're gonna do it again. Well, it's his turn. I don't make turns out of it. You're gonna do it again. But she's so focused on the things. She's so focused on making sure the things are perfect. The ceremony of it is right. The serving, the loving your neighbor part is right. She's even asking God to step in, and she's asking the Lord to step in and do something about it. Put those people to work. I'm tired of doing it all. Put that person to work. And or the like you said, that between the older and younger sister, you get your butt up and do some of the work. But the Lord replied to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and bothered and anxious about so many things. Again, I think that's pretty much what we've been covering since we started talking about this. Being worried about the things, being worried about making sure everything is perfect. You are so focused on the material things. You're so focused on the show. You're so focused on the works that you've lost the real focus, the real thing that you need to be, that you should be bothered with or bothered for. It says, but only one thing is necessary. And this is something we see not just in this example, as he's, I think, like I say, a continuation of the most important commandments. Okay, so you're so focused with the loving your neighbor as yourself that you forgot that first one of love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. You're kind of missing that one thing. But there's also that one thing of just being with the Lord. David tells us, the one thing I desire is to dwell in the house of the Lord forever, to walk in his precepts, not just to exist in eternal life, but to dwell with God. David made that one thing so important. And Mary sees that. I think Mary has that desire to. She sees that Christ is the Messiah, Christ is the Lord, and she desires to dwell with him. I think later on, it's in Luke. It's further on in Luke. We have the rich young ruler that asks Jesus. It says, "What do I need to do to inherit eternal life?" And they have a bit of a conversation, and the ruler is basically saying, I've kept all your commandments all my life since I was a child. I've done all the things. I've been like Martha. I've done all the things correctly. What do I need to do to inherit eternal life? And Christ says, then you're missing the one important thing, or you're missing the one necessary thing. He tells the rich young ruler to sell all your possessions, use to benefit the poor. That will store up your treasure in heaven. And then the rich young ruler, of course, just walks away sad because he was incredibly wealthy and he didn't want to give up his wealth. But this isn't the only time that Christ mentions this one thing that is truly important above all else. And that is to loving the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, to desire that personal relationship with him, to desire to be near him, and not just to be near him, but to be at his feet, to be sitting, to take up the position of being submissive to him, as we see Mary did many times. It is to have the faith and trust in him, that and willingness to learn from him. But maybe more than anything else is that submissive position of sitting at his feet. There is this one thing, and it's mentioned multiple times, and I trying to think. I believe there's other times that it's mentioned in the same way, whether it's Christ or one of his disciples, or, as I said, David at one point. But all when it's this one necessary thing that we are missing, more often than not, it is to actually be in the presence of God. We can do all the things right. We can love our neighbor. We can be really good people. But if we are missing that presence of God, if we were missing dwelling with him, if we were missing having that submissive position with Christ, then we're missing everything. Being that good person doing all the things is nothing when we have not taken that position of having a relationship and this reconciliation with Christ and putting ourselves at his feet. Salvador El San, good morning to you, my friend. Says, hello there, you good guys in the States. I wish you all the best. Well, we're glad and blessed that you joined us this morning. And then he goes on and says, for Mary has chosen the good part. Mary has taken on the love the Lord your God first. And that will not be taken away from her. What is it Christ says? The sheep know my name, and the wolves cannot take them from me. The sheep, or the sheep know the Father's voice. The Father knows each one of his sheep, and they cannot be taken away from him. Once you reach that point of submission, when you are at the feet of Christ, when you take that up as your priority, that cannot be taken away from you. There is nothing anything in this world can do to take that away from you. And that doesn't mean That doesn't mean that you're not going to be out doing things and loving your neighbor, and that doesn't mean that you won't be serving in the community. That doesn't mean that you won't end up on a mission trip around the world. It's the good part. The important thing is to put yourself at His feet first. And we kind of wonder if if this wasn't meant to make example, how the story would have went if both Mary and Martha had sat at Jesus' feet first and listened to Him and allowed His teaching, and then maybe both get up and do the serving. I don't know if I want to get into speculating all the what ifs and what could have happened, but the good part, the initial part, the most necessary part, when you invite Him in, you invite Him into your home, you invite Him into your heart, you invite Him into your life. And you think about any guest. Coffee house. I think it is the difference between those who pray now and those who pray after they have finished everything else. Yeah, very, very much so. And when you say that makes me, that reminds me, the people who will start going to church after I get my life together, after I get myself out of this situation, after I do all the things. Then I'll go sit down at Christ's feet. But it's important for my image for me to get rid of this stuff first, to do the stuff. I'll finish it, and then I'll sit down with Christ, and then I'll pray with Christ. I think we can see that one a lot in this world. We've probably all encountered, and I honestly, some of us may have been that person at times, where I'll return to God, or I'll go meet God, or I'll start going to church once I've straightened myself out. And maybe not, you've been successful in that. But it's something we definitely encounter quite often. Those who pray now, or those who pray after they have finished everything else. I prefer to pray now and let Him finish things through me. Makes the workload a little easier on us when He's with us doing that work. Alan, good morning, Alan. Says I am late. Where now? I'm here now. God is so good. Love you, brothers. Hey, we love you too, brother. It's always good to have you with us. We're actually reading a pretty short passage this morning. It's at the end. It's right after the story, the parable of the Good Samaritan. It's when Jesus comes to Martha and Mary. This is the house of Martha and Mary and Lazarus that we hear of a few different times mentioned throughout the Bible. And the big part of the story is the distinction between Martha, who is so focused on serving and doing the things that she's getting frustrated, she's getting irritated, and you have Mary who has put herself at Jesus's feet and is relaxed and learning, and there's this kind of tension growing, and that's probably something that I may have already mentioned. The things Martha was doing good things. It wasn't her works that were cause for rebuke from Christ. It wasn't the things she was doing. It wasn't the all the all the service, all of what it wasn't what she was doing that was cause for rebuke from Christ. It was that tension that she was creating. Not only she was creating tension between her and her sister, she was creating tension between herself and Christ, because she hadn't taken up that position of submission. She hadn't sat at Christ's feet. She hadn't said, she hadn't opened her eyes, opened her heart, opened the eyes of her heart. She hadn't poured herself out at all. Hadn't created space to allow him to fill, as her sister Mary was doing. And so, again, it wasn't the works that were bad. It was the actual tension that she was creating and the loss of focus that was brought out because of that. And I forget, I'd started to have another thought. Now I've forgotten it. Let me look. Melinda's not with us this morning. Melinda usually she likes to give us some input out of the Passion Translation when we're in our gospel passage. I think I've got plenty of time. I may just go ahead and read this again out of the Passion. Back to Luke 10:38. See if this gives any different light to it. As Jesus and the disciples continued on their journey, they came to a village where a woman welcomed Jesus into her home. Her name was Martha, and she had a sister Mary. Mary sat down attentively before the Master, absorbing every revelation he shared. But Martha became exasperated with finishing the numerous household chores and preparations for her guests. So she interrupted Jesus and said, "Lord, don't you think it's unfair that my sister left me to do all the work by myself? You should tell her to get up and help me." The Lord answered her, "Martha, my beloved Martha, why are you upset and troubled, pulled away by all these many distractions? Mary has discovered the one thing most important by choosing to sit at my feet. She is undistracted, and I won't take this privilege from her." Yeah, I think I already mentioned it, but it does. It talks about Mary absorbing everything that Christ had shared. She's not just going through the motions of sitting there. She's not just going through the motions of getting to church and sitting in the pews and going home. She's actually absorbing. She's listening to Christ. She's opened herself to him. And I think I like the way this one says it more than just listening to his teaching, but absorbing every revelation he shared. Okay. I'm going to close that up. We've got some time here. I think one thing I'll do as we're still on this, haven't got on the Ask the AI anything for a while. Luke 10:38 to 42. Oops. So we got, I loaded it up. How does the Bible passage, Luke 10:38 through 42, connect with our lives today? And this is something each and every one of you can do if you're at home and you're studying a passage, or you're wanting to dwell more on something that we read through the day, not real sure where to turn. It's I like using the AI sometimes to ask for clarification, or ask for how the passage connects with our lives today, as I just typed up here. And we can't take 100% of what the AI says or comes up with. Don't take that as written in stone. It does make mistakes, but oftentimes, even after we've sat here and discussed a passage, we can sit down and look and see what the AI says, and it may come up with one or two points that is like, oh, we completely missed that. We didn't even talk about that, So Gemini says, the Bible passage tells the story of Mary and Martha, has several powerful connections to our lives. Here's a breakdown. Prioritizing presence over productivity. Mary chose to sit at Jesus' feet and listening to his teaching, while Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. In our fast-paced, performance-driven society, we often feel immense pressure to be constantly productive, to do more, to optimize every moment. The story reminds us that sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply be present, to listen, to learn, and to connect with what truly nourishes our souls. Whether that's spiritual growth, quality time with loved ones, or engaging in contemplative practices, we can lose ourselves in endless tasks and forget to nurture our inner lives. So I just had a thought while I was reading that. One thing I think we can see with Mary and Martha, if you invite a guest to your house, be it inviting Christ in, or be it inviting someone else, what good has that invitation done when you don't just listen to them, just be a person to listen to them? We talked before, last couple weeks, several times we talked about how sometimes loving your neighbor means just to listen to them. But what about your guests? If your guest is your neighbor, but it's somebody you invite in, someone you bring in, and if you just invite them to your place to put on a show, what good does that do for you or for them? If you invite them to so that they can see all the things that you do correctly, all the things that you set up correctly, and how well dressed your children are, and how well you take care of your home and your lawn, and how perfect you set up your food, but you don't sit and take time to listen. You when you invite someone in, should you not sit down and see what they have to bring to the table? Sit down and hear about them and their life and what's going on with them, instead of all making it all about the procedure and what can be seen. Taking that time to listen to your guest, I think may very much be a big part, again, of what Martha missed here. And this goes on to the tyranny of busyness. Martha's anxiety and frustration are highly relatable. We often find ourselves overwhelmed by to-do lists, responsibilities, and the feeling that we are constantly falling behind. This passage highlights how busyness, even in the pursuit of good things like hospitality, can lead to stress, resentment, and a loss of focus on what truly matters. It prompts us to reflect on whether our busyness is serving us or enslaving us. Ooh. The better part, with Jesus' affirmation. Jesus tells Martha, Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. This doesn't mean that practical service is unimportant, Rather, it emphasizes that there is a better part, a deeper, more enduring value and spiritual nourishment in relationship with God, or more broadly, with core values and meaning in life. In our contemporary context, this better part could be interpreted as cultivating our inner lives, pursuing wisdom, building meaningful relationships, or engaging with activities that align our deepest values, even if they don't immediately produce tangible results. Coffee House says, I think that's like quantity or quality time versus quantity. Yeah, that's, and we very much often miss the quality time by placing importance on the quantity time. Hospitality and its pitfalls. While hospitality is a virtue, Martha's experience shows how the performance of hospitality can overshadow its true spirit. We can get so caught up in impressing others or adhering to social expectations that we miss the opportunity for genuine connection and presence. This applies to many aspects of our lives where we might prioritize outward appearances or expectations over authentic engagement. Finding balance. The passage isn't advocating for a complete rejection of practical responsibilities. Instead, it invites us to find a balance. It challenges us to evaluate what we are spending our time and energy on, and to discern whether we are prioritizing the temporary and superficial over the eternal and truly meaningful. Luke 10:38 through 42 encourages us to be mindful of our priorities. Are we consumed by doing that we neglect being? Resist the pressure of constant productivity. It is okay to slow down and simply be present. Nurture our inner lives. Make time for spiritual growth, reflection, and activities that nourish our souls. Evaluate our busyness. Is it serving us, or are we serving it? And choose the better part. Prioritize what truly matters and has lasting value. This timeless story continues to resonate because it speaks to the universal human struggle of balancing practical demands with the deeper longing for meaning, connection, and spiritual growth. Okay, so I think it very much said a lot of what we already said, but in a bit of a different way. Although I didn't take the time to sit there and study what the Gemini said this time, but it seemed to more than it usually does. It kind of seemed to not point so directly to God and to Christ, like it was trying to avoid it a little more with where was that? Yeah, like talking about the better part is cultivating our inner lives, pursuing wisdom, building meaningful relationships. Kind of took away the being in the presence of Christ in that better part, or that desire to dwell with God. And there was a few other parts. So if you use the AI, do make sure you scrutinize it, and it can be a good guide to kind of give you some direction. But do make sure you spend some time reading into it instead of, don't make it your only resource. But all right, that's about all I got for us this morning. We're getting to the 9 o'clock hour. The whole reason I've started opening earlier is because I've been getting to the point where we've been closing later and later, and I really need 9 o'clock, or within the first few minutes of 9 o'clock really needs to be a hard time. So I think it worked out all right to start at 8:10 this morning, and I think I'll continue doing that throughout this week. and we'll see where that goes. Coffee House says, I think we're better served to see the spiritual aspect in everything we do rather than before or after what we do. To enjoy that spiritual aspect during. Yeah. I like that. Richie, hey, good morning, Richie. Says, great study again. Thank you and God bless. See you all tomorrow. Yep, we will be here tomorrow. So I'll be starting at 8:10 Eastern Standard Time. If you can't join us quite that early, that is fine. Feel free to jump in with us at any time. Tomorrow we are studying Colossians chapter 1, verses 15 through 28. So I hope you all have a wonderful and blessed day. Don't stay cool. Don't get too hot. Don't get too wet. Hopefully everything goes well for you. I love you all. I truly do. God willing, I will see each and every one of you tomorrow morning.